Welcome to AI Book Highlights. Today we're doing a deep dive into Ray Dalio's Principles, Life and Work.
Ah, yes. A fascinating book.
It really is. It offers these fundamental truths, basically, for getting what you want out of life. And today we want to pull out some key insights, things that can help you make better decisions, maybe improve things.
Absolutely. Dalio, he founded Bridgewater Associates, right?
Yeah.
And he's basically distilled, well, decades of experience into these principles. And they're not just abstract ideas, they're like the foundation of his success. They give you a framework for handling all sorts of stuff.
It's like rules of thumb?
Yeah, exactly. Think of them as rules of thumb, or he even calls them recipes for success. They guide you toward better outcomes consistently.
Okay, so let's dig into that first highlight then. The actual power of having principles. Why are they such a big deal?
Well, at their core, principles are these fundamental truths, right? They guide your actions to get you where you want to go. The real power, though, is that they're repeatable. So you face a similar situation, you apply the principle, it creates consistency.
Like those recipes you mentioned.
Precisely. A good recipe gives you a good result, usually. Same idea here. Dalio argues that all successful people operate by principles, whether they write them down or not. His own first principle is a good example. Think for yourself. Decide what you want, what's true, what to do. But crucially, with humility and open-mindedness.
And it's important that your principles align with others you work with, right? Especially in organizations.
Definitely. That alignment is key for collaboration. And Dalio really made a conscious effort to lay his out in the book. It wasn't accidental.
Okay, so he didn't just instinctively know these. He worked at defining them.
Exactly. That leads perfectly into the second highlight. Systemizing decision-making. He actually started writing down his criteria for making decisions.
Like a checklist.
Sort of, yeah. He'd make a decision, see the outcome, and then reflect. Did those criteria work? Should I tweak them? And over time, this evolved. He started expressing these criteria as algorithms, basically rules that computers could follow.
Bringing technology into it. What did that achieve?
Well, the big discovery was that computers, by processing way more information than a person could, and importantly, without emotion.
Right. No gut feelings getting in the way.
Exactly. They could often make better, faster, more objective decisions. It wasn't about replacing people, more like augmenting them. Combining human insight with this algorithmic processing led to much better collective decision-making at Bridgewater.
Compounding understanding, he calls it.
Yeah, and he really believes this kind of believability-weighted decision-making, giving more weight to experts with proven track records, could really change things.
Beyond just finance, you mean?
Yeah, potentially in all sorts of fields. It improved their economic decisions, sure, but he found the principle-driven approach helped in, well, pretty much all aspects of life.
Interesting. Okay, another concept strongly associated with Bridgewater is this idea meritocracy. What's that about?
Right, the idea meritocracy. So the goal there is to create an environment where the best ideas win, no matter who they come from.
Sounds good in theory, but how do you actually do that?
Through what Dalio calls radical truth and radical transparency. It's this belief that thoughtful, unemotional disagreement between independent thinkers leads to the smartest choices. The group is smarter than the individual.
That sounds potentially uncomfortable. Radical truth.
Oh, it absolutely can be. Dalio himself admits it. But the idea is that getting to the truth, even if it's uncomfortable, is more important than protecting egos. He shares stories, where junior people challenged him, pointed out flaws in his thinking.
And that was okay, encouraged even.
Yes, because that honest exchange led to better decisions. It's about the idea, not the person's rank. It's intense, but that's how they believe they get the best results.
And this transparency extends to how he presents his own story in the book, too.
Absolutely. That's a key part of it. He's incredibly open about his mistakes, his failures, and what he learned from them.
Not just the highlight reel, then.
Not at all. It's quite unvarnished, actually, and that connects to a really important life principle he discusses. Understanding your weaknesses is the first step to getting better.
Right. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge.
Precisely. Bringing mistakes into the light, not to beat yourself up, but to learn, that's where the growth happens.
Okay, let's transition to highlight 4. This comes from part 2 of the book, The Life Principles, starting with embrace reality and deal with it.
Yeah, this is fundamental for Dalio. He kind of frames life as a game. Problems aren't roadblocks, they're puzzles.
Puzzles to be solved.
Right, and when you solve them, you get these gems, which are the principles you learn from the experience. So the more puzzles you solve, the more gems or principles you collect.
The better your decision-making gets over time.
Exactly. It's a continuous improvement loop. A big part of this is understanding how reality actually works, almost like studying nature.
What does he mean by that? Like laws of physics?
More like the underlying patterns. He notes that nature optimizes for the whole system, not necessarily for the individual organism, evolution, for example. And he suggests we need to adopt a similar, higher-level perspective on our own lives.
Stepping back, looking down on things.
Yeah, like being the designer and manager of your life machine, not just a worker stuck inside it. Seeing the bigger picture allows you to act more strategically.
That's a powerful image. But he also points out some major barriers to doing that effectively, right?
He does. Highlight 5. Overcoming your two biggest barriers: ego and blind spots.
Ah, the ego. Always tricky.
Very tricky. Our ego barrier makes it hard to accept our mistakes and weaknesses. It wants to protect our self-image. And blind spots are areas where our way of thinking prevents us from seeing things accurately. We literally don't know what we don't know.
And these two things together really mess up decision-making.
Hugely. They make it hard to see reality objectively, and just as importantly, they make it hard to get the most out of other people. Our brains often react to disagreement as an attack.
Even when it's just someone trying to point out a potential issue.
Right. Your lower level brain kicks in, you get defensive, and you can't really engage logically.
So what's the antidote, according to Dalio?
Radical open-mindedness. It's about genuinely wanting to find the truth, more than wanting to be right. It involves things like triangulating with believable people, smart folks who disagree with you, to see things from different angles.
He gives signs of closed-mindedness versus open-mindedness, doesn't he?
Yes. Very useful. Like, closed-minded people don't want their ideas challenged. Open-minded people are curious about why someone disagrees. Closed-minded people focus on being understood. Open-minded people focus on understanding the other person's perspective.
And open-minded people often preface opinions with, I could be wrong, but...
Exactly. It shows humility and a focus on learning, which is crucial for overcoming those ego and blind spot barriers.
Okay, lots of powerful ideas there. Let's shift to some actionable takeaways. What's the first practical thing listeners could do?
Well, building directly on everything we've discussed, the first step is to identify and articulate your own principles.
So consciously think about them.
Yeah, really reflect. What are your fundamental truths? What do you really want? What do you believe is true about how things work? And crucially, as Dalio did, write them down.
Why is writing them down so important?
It forces clarity. It makes them explicit. Then you can actually evaluate them, refine them, and consciously use them to guide your decisions and navigate relationships better. It makes them real.
Okay, that makes sense. Identify and write down your principles. What's takeaway number 2?
Seek out thoughtful disagreement. Actively look for believable people you respect, who have a good track record, who see things differently than you do on important topics.
Don't just surround yourself with people who agree with you.
Exactly. The goal isn't to win arguments. It's to understand their reasoning. Why do they hold that different view?
Stress testing your own ideas.
Precisely. It's one of the best ways to learn, to see your own blind spots, and ultimately to increase the odds you're making a good decision. Be curious, not defensive. Prioritize truth over being right.
Right. Good advice. And the third actionable takeaway.
Start systemizing your decisions, even in a small way.
Like building those algorithms Dalio talked about. That sounds complex.
It doesn't have to be super complex initially. Start simple. For important decisions, maybe just write down the criteria you're using before you decide.
Okay, like I'm choosing this option because of factor A, B, and C.
Yeah. And then after the outcome is clear, go back and reflect. Were A, B, and C good criteria? Did they lead to the result you wanted? You could even use a simple spreadsheet to track major decisions, the criteria, and the outcomes over time.
Ah, so you build your own data set.
Kind of, yeah. It helps you see patterns, learn what works for you, and maybe reduce some of that emotional bias that can creep in. It's about making your decision-making process more deliberate and effective over the long run.
Building your personal playbook, like you said earlier.
Exactly.
Wow, okay. So, to quickly recap, we dove into the power of principles, the value of systemizing decisions, the idea of meritocracy through radical truth and transparency, embracing reality, and tackling our ego and blind spots.
All key pillars of Dalio's philosophy.
And the actionable takeaways. Define your own principles, actively seek thoughtful disagreement, and start systemizing your decision-making process. Lots to chew on there.
Definitely. It's a framework that really can help navigate life and work more effectively.
Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive. Thanks for walking us through these principles, and thank you for joining us. If these ideas resonated and you want to explore them much more deeply, we absolutely recommend getting Ray Dalio's book, Principles, Life and Work.
It's packed with much more detail and nuance than we could cover here.
For sure. We put a link to purchase the book right there in the description. Thanks again for listening to AI Book Highlights.